No, I'm enrolled.
Okay, you guys.
I'm ready.
Okay, Kalia.
Oh wait, can I time myself? Raise your hand if you guys know why Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity was suspended 2 years ago. Blackface. Despite press, diversity, and inclusion training for fraternities and sororities and for WOWies, a culture of racism and intolerance is present at Cal Poly's campus. While the majority of us in this classroom are Caucasian or appear Caucasian, there are some of us who are not, and we don't need demographics to know that. These inequalities must be addressed, and why not in school? High school. California is one of the most populous and diverse states in our nation, and I believe that our school programs should reflect this. California is on the cusp of becoming the first U.S. state to have ethnic studies programs implemented in high school. And in this speech, I'll be explaining why I believe that ethnic studies courses should be implemented, why they're widely beneficial for American culture in developing informed and aware youths, and why there are some problems and concerns about the current ethnic studies bill, and just addressing those concerns and what there could be for options in the future. As an ethnic studies major, the past 2 quarters I've been learning, presenting, reading, writing, and just really absorbing all this information about ethnic studies just as a concept, as a major. Only 50 years ago, last year, 2019, people were losing their lives to police brutality in order for first San Francisco State University and University of California, Berkeley, in order to have ethnic studies programs. So this isn't something that just came because people wanted this and they just said it. This is a major that people have to fight for, and so I believe this is really, really important. There is an intrinsic social culture of racism in America, and this is really prevalent. You can just see it through housing, through education, through the legal systems, and a lack of awareness around this systemic racism persists as a result of a failing education system. So just for some background, ethnic studies, as defined by the University of California, Berkeley, is the critical and interdisciplinary study of race, ethnicity, and indigeneity with a focus on the experiences and perspectives of people of color inside and beyond the United States. So history classes right now don't accurately represent and teach the total history of California's demographics. And this results in increasing inequalities for people of color, and students who aren't aligned with whiteness deserve to understand their history. And as white students, we must comprehend the differences between different races in order to acknowledge our own white privilege. And finally, having ethnic studies courses actually has been shown to improve the grades of students. So from the 2018 article, Ethnic Studies Should Be a High School Requirement, researchers found that students' GPAs, students who are actually struggling in school, their GPA improved by 1.4 grade points, attendance rose 21 attendance points, and class credit in general increased 23 after taking an ethnic studies course, which I think is pretty important. But it's not about grades. A history explaining America is generally inclusive, humanizing, and full of positivity towards activism is not teaching the truth of America. So specific instances of violence and injustice and discrimination should be known by people who are in every single major, not just ethnic studies majors. So according to Statista, from information gathered from the U.S. Census Bureau, in California, Latinx people have actually surpassed the white people. But despite the prevalence of these Latinx communities, classes mostly focus on white history and influences, and we know this because you all went through all of you went through high school history. But it's not only important to acknowledge the obvious demographics that are large in California, it's also really important to become educated on other minorities that have a really big impact on our nation's history and just communities that our nation has exploited, whitewashed, and just torn apart. So in many schools, history classes brush over the gravity of capitalism and its negative effects on minorities. But Patty V. de los Rios explains in explains how race and racism are deeply woven into the tapestry of colonialism and expansionism in the United States. The one-sided history that dominates Western scholarship, curricula, and schooling too often privileges social, political, and economic systems of power. Capitalism must be taught as an inherently racist system, which is most aggressively affecting the Black community, especially in the incarceration system, which actively continues slavery in America today. In Robert L. Allen's novel, Black Awakening in Capitalist America, he explains a quote by Stokely Carmichael, who is the founder, activist. He's a black activist and creator of the Black Power movement. He explains, "This nation has been like an octopus of exploitation, its tentacles stretching. A powerful few have been maintained and enriched at the expense of the poor and colored voiceless. Ethnic studies will encourage understanding around the impacts of our nation's ideology and framework on people of color. We must educate about the Black Panther Party, about the influence of COINTELPRO on Black, Asian, Native American, and Chicano power movements, the mistreatment of blacks by the police, the land and culture stolen from Native American people, and the manipulation and exploitation of immigrant Latinx people. Without this knowledge and acknowledgement of the prejudices in our nation's history, we cannot move towards a more culturally aware and just future. This bill is incredibly important, and you can call your senators in the next few weeks and tell them why you think Bill 227 should be passed. These are just California senators, but you can also Google search your local senator wherever you live, wherever you vote. But I also don't want to brush over the recent controversies concerning the bill and why I believe it is best for this bill. It's 600 pages, a 600-page curriculum that actually one of my ethnic studies teacher helped write. Why I believe that it should be reviewed and postponed a few years. The first thing is that there's an argument that the bill is exclusionary towards other minority groups because they just cover the Big Four, or what they call the Big Four, which is Asian, Latin American, or Asian, Latinx, Black, and Native American. And there's also the bill is also under fire for being anti-Semitic, which is really frustrating for me as a Jewish person who's also majoring in ethnic studies. It is likely that this bill will be pushed back for another 2 years in order to include other ethnicities, but however you may feel about this issue, I say that it is your duty to become educated. Take an ethnic studies class. The program here is incredible. The teachers are amazing. Read up on this bill. Become educated. You know where you can stand because we're all 18. We can all vote. You all have the power to reach out to your senators and tell them what you want, what you want. So I believe it is so important that this bill be reviewed and eventually passed because I think it's so important that ethnic studies should be taught everywhere, especially in high schools. I think that would just create a more inclusive overall environment and more aware. And this bill can absolutely transform America. So thank you.
Okay, T.
I think that you had a really great use of examples, and your slides really reiterated the point. I really liked how you had a whole bunch of different events, here and in history, and then also I could tell you were really interested in it because it showed how intellectual you are about and all the knowledge you have learned here about ethnic studies.
I liked your credibility was there. You're studying it. You know a lot about it. I did want to know more about the bill, though. So I don't know. Obviously, there's not enough time for you to explain every little thing. But
it's also 600 pages.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was a really interesting speech, though, and I liked hearing about what you're passionate about.
Thank you. Oh wait, I'll get your computer.
Okay, Daniel,
Oh, yeah, I
we're
can do
all done for the day. We're gonna do our last couple of rest next time.
No, my laptop.
Katie's about to cry.
Oh, where we go?
I'm really upset right now.
Oh, there you go. There's none of the top. This just means I'll get more time to show more.
Black Panthers.
Sorry?
The NRA, that's when they decided that people shouldn't own guns and it should be more regulated.
Oh yeah, when the Black
When
Panther
the Black
Party
Panthers-
marches into the fucking Capitol building.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I learned
What if the
a couple
first
months ago that Samuel Jackson was part of the Black Panther
tweet?
movement, but then he
Oh, it
quit
was like,
before it actually got.
It was just explaining why he did, why he
Yeah,
excuses. Yeah,
He
it
was,
was,
yeah.
It was like
Just for a brief
quoting
time,
what
but
Boyd
we
said,
can talk
and it
about
was like
Huh?
it was